reputed for having 4 sovereign states: Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somalia. But interestingly, there's yet one not so popular country, which is a breakaway state with lesser population, the Republic of Somaliland. Somaliland, or rightly the Republic of Somaliland, happens to be a de facto sovereign state in the Horn of Africa. And even today, many consider this country as part of Somalia. Lying on the southern coast of the Gulf of Aden, Somaliland is bordered by Djibouti to the northwest, Ethiopia to the south and west, and Somalia to the east. Its claimed territory has an area of 176,120 square kilometers, and approximately 5.7 million residents inhabit Somaliland as of 2021. The capital and largest city is Hargeisa. How the Somali Republic came to being was a transition from British Somaliland, which was briefly united in 1960 with the Trust Territory of Somaliland to form the Somali Republic. Over 10,000 years ago, Somaliland was first inhabited during the Neolithic Age. The ancient shepherds raised cows and other livestock, and it has the most vibrant rock art paintings in Africa. And culturally, traces of that ancient way of life can still be seen rooted in present-day Somaliland. Throughout the Middle Ages, Arab immigrants arrived in Somaliland, including the Muslim Sheikh Ishaq bin Ahmed, who founded the Isaac clan, and Ismail al-Jabati, who founded the Darod clan, who both traveled from Arabia to Somaliland and married into the local Dio clan, which had been described as legendary stories. In the late 19th century, the United Kingdom signed arrangements with 8 major Somali clans: Haber Awal, Gar Hajis, Haber Jello, Wasangeli, Isa, and Gada Busi, establishing a protectorate. However, the Dervishes clan leader, Muhammad Abdullah Hassan, stood against the protection agreement signed with Britain with the Somali sultans. The Dervishes were finally defeated in the 1920 Somaliland campaign. On June 26, 1960, the protectorate gained independence as the state of Somaliland, 5 days later uniting with the Trust Territory of Somaliland following its separate independence to form the Somali Republic. A year later, Somalia took control of state institutions, which was rejected in the former state of Somaliland, and resulted in the Somaliland residents boycotting the vote on the Somali constitution. In December 1961, the revolution in the north was started by soldiers of the former state of Somaliland, who took control of large cities in the north. This outright struggle would go on to last for over 20 years, although in the end, a group of officers took control of the radio station in Hargeisa, declaring the end of the unity between Somalia and Somaliland. In April 1981, the Somali National Movement was founded, which led to the infamous Somaliland War of Independence. In 1988, at the peak of the war, the Siad Barre government began a crackdown against the Hargeisa-based SNM and other militant groups, which were among the events that led to the Somali Civil War. Consequently, as with all long-lasting conflicts, Somalia's economic and military infrastructure was severely damaged. Following the collapse of Barre's government in early 1991, local authorities led by the SNM unilaterally declared independence from Somalia on the 18th of May the same year and reinstated the borders of the former short-lived independent state of Somaliland. And since then, the territory has been governed by democratically elected governments that seek international recognition as the government of the Republic of Somaliland. If you're new here, ensure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications so as to be notified on our future uploads. Let's take a glance at Somaliland's history. Following the civil war in Somalia in 1980 and the subsequent fall of that country's government in 1991, the Somali National Movement, a government opposition party, seized control of the former British Somaliland area. They declared their region to be an independent state, to be known as the Republic of Somaliland, in May 1991, announcing that the 1960 federation was no longer valid. Despite not being officially recognized, Somaliland experienced relative stability, in contrast to Somalia's ongoing civil war. The Somaliland administration was able to reconstruct most of the region's infrastructure, which has been devastated by years of battle thanks to this stability. Somaliland and Puntland have had a tense relationship since the late 90s. Armed clashes have occurred on several occasions as each side disputes the other's claim to the Sanag and the Sul regions. Somaliland was still not recognized as an independent country in 2001, 10 years after breaking away from Somalia. Inspired in part, the government organized a referendum that year, the results of which indicated that Somaliland's residents largely supported the region's claim to independence. In 2003, the Somaliland government, as in the past, turned down invitations to take part in peace talks aimed at reunifying Somalia, claiming that its independence prevented it from participating. Next, we'll be looking at some of the reasons why Somaliland is not considered a country. Even if supporters of Somaliland's independence maintain that the territory has a reasonable claim due to cultural and ethnic differences, with Somaliland having its own currency, military, passports and elections, all of which have been recognized and acknowledged by foreign partners, such as the European Union. It is also more stable than Somalia, with little evidence of terrorism since 2008. However, there are concerns, particularly among African Union members, that formal recognition of Somaliland will encourage other African secessionist movements to seek independence. And while it is a relatively stable territory by world standards, it is exceedingly poor. According to the World Bank, its GDP per capita is only $348, making it the world's fourth poorest country if it were independent. Somaliland's political status. Since 1991, Somaliland has sought international recognition as a sovereign state, although no foreign government recognizes its independence. Many treat the region as an independent nation from Somalia. Some countries including France, the United Kingdom and the United States, as well as the European Union, sent a delegation to monitor Somaliland's 2017 presidential election, after the country declared independence from Somalia's government in Mogadishu. Since 2003, it has held democratic elections, with the opposition Peace, Unity and Development Party taking office in a relatively peaceful transition of power in 2010. How Somaliland got to its present state. The history of Somaliland as a separate area of Somalia dates back to the late 1800s. The territory was a British protectorate until 1960, when it merged with the rest of modern-day Somalia, which had previously been ruled by the Italians. The merger was met with opposition from the start, with many Somalilanders opposing the centralization of power in the country's south. In the 1980s, the Somali National Movement arose in Somaliland to oppose President Siad Barre's military junta, which had seized power in 1969. Barre's forces had killed tens of thousands of Somalilanders and destroyed much of the region's infrastructure when SNM and other insurgent groups overthrew him in January 1991. The Somali National Movement refused to recognize an interim government established by another paramilitary organization, and in May of that year, Somaliland declared independence, with Hargeisa as the capital. Delegates worked for a decade to draft a new constitution for Somaliland, which was overwhelmingly approved by voters in 2001. The vote marked the end of a power-sharing agreement between the clan leaders and the beginning of a multi-party democracy. Despite the fact that some international observers praised the peaceful voting, the process was not recognized by any country. The fight for independence. The Somaliland administration claims to meet the majority of the criteria for a sovereign democratic state, including holding free and fair elections, having its own currency and security forces, as well as issuing passports. It also claims that its claim to independence is consistent with the African Union's and its predecessors' long-standing policy of maintaining colonial-era borders. Some researchers also point out that Somalilanders are ethnically unique from other Somalis because they are largely from the Isa clan. Somaliland's financial situation. The government's ability to deliver services to its approximately 4 million citizens has been limited by a weak economy and restricted chances for international trade and investment. Somaliland's GDP is around $2 billion, with the majority of that coming from donations from Somalilanders working abroad. Livestock is its main export, which it sends to neighboring Djibouti and Ethiopia, as well as Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia and Oman. It has one of the world's lowest GDP per capita in the hundreds of dollars. Meanwhile, as long as Somaliland is not an officially recognized state or reconciled with Somalia, the administration will be ineligible for loans from the World Bank and also the IMF. Negotiations between Somalia and Somaliland. Mogadishu has rejected Somaliland's declaration of independence, and the Somali president, Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, also known as Farmajo, has pushed to restart unity talks that had stalled in 2015. Somaliland, on the other hand, is standing firm in its ambitions. According to Foreign Minister Saad Ali Shire, while Somaliland is willing to collaborate with Somalia on issues such as counter-terrorism and food security, the two must agree to recognize each other as independent African states. International mediators are hopeful that dialogue will begin soon. Given the leadership changes on both sides, the United Nations top envoy to Somalia, Michael Keating, believes the time has come for new talks. According to Keating, negotiations could focus on common concerns such as drought and environmental degradation, security and maritime issues, and airspace management. Challenges faced by Somaliland. Today, Somaliland is suffering as a result of its extreme vulnerability to climate change-related issues. Years of severe drought, famine and other disasters have pushed people to the brink of disaster. Communities still struggling to recover from a 2-year drought that ended in 2017 are now facing one of the driest rainy seasons in 3 decades, with the UN claiming that 2.2 million people in Somalia and Somaliland are at risk of starvation. And life in Somaliland can be particularly difficult for women and girls. It is estimated that 98% of women have had female genital mutilation, and thousands of women and girls living in internally displaced camps face a constant threat of violence. That is why Action Aid is working in Somaliland's displacement camps to assist women and girls in surviving and putting an end to gender-based violence across Somaliland. International support for Somaliland's independence. Many countries have supported Somaliland's elections and economic development, but none have recognized it. According to some experts, the African Union would have to be the first to do so. However, the Confederation of the African Union is concerned that formal recognition will empower and encourage other separatist movements on the continent, such as Nigeria's Biafra or Morocco's Western Sahara, to demand the same. There have only been 2 widely recognized border changes in Africa since the formation of a continental group in 1963. Eritrea's separation from Ethiopia in 1993, and South Sudan's independence in 2011. Somaliland's strategic importance. Somaliland is located near the entrance of the Bab al-Mandeb, a major sea lane through which nearly one-third of the world's shipping passes. Its strategic location has aided the government in attracting new trade and development agreements. For example, in the late 2016, a Dubai-based company announced plans to invest nearly $450 million in managing and upgrading the port of Berbera, and also developing a corridor connecting it to the Ethiopian border. According to reports, Ethiopia is negotiating a shareholding in the deal. In recent years, the Horn of Africa has also attracted security-related investments. Somaliland has followed suit, signing an agreement in early 2017 with the UAE to build a military base at Berbera. There you have it, viewers. Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you found this video informative enough, ensure to hit that subscription button. Give us a like while turning on the notifications so as to be notified on our future uploads. Thanks for watching.